I'm Deborah Cantwell, and I visited your class last week, and I'm right here to do the condition report on the piece of artwork and the frame that we were talking about. I have it on my table, and I have put on an apron to protect my clothes, but also to protect the artwork, because I don't want any dust or lint to be a problem here. I've also put down fresh paper that I can put this on, because there may be some fallout or something that gets on my table. My table is used for multiple things, and I certainly don't want that. Likewise, I don't want anything that may be on my table, which I try to keep that really, really clean, but that could then enter into the artwork itself. The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about the face of the frame. The face of the frame is a 1/4 inch aluminum frame. It has some scratches and pretty good chunks on the edges. You can feel them with this. The corners are tight. The frame itself has a channel for the glass, so it does hold it up slightly away from the print, which has allowed some buckling of the artwork itself. It it could in the center, and may have at one point actually allowed the artwork to touch the center of this glass. Then I look at the artwork itself, I look at the glass, and the artwork appears to be a multimedia. There's pastel in the color, there is kind of a white paint, then there's some kind of a spray. It almost looks like a glitter spray that is very evident on this side. Not so evident on this side, but it does get into the clouds, and it's kind of spread over here, over the print. I don't know if that's the propellant that it's put it all over it, or if it's just simply a matter that it kind of has moved because it's a dry medium that doesn't necessarily stick any particular place. At any rate, we'll know when we get in here a little bit more about that. There is a fogging, which we discussed in class, of this glass, and the fogging could be a number of different things. As noted by one of the students, it could be that it's where someone didn't clean it well. It could be also a reaction with the chemicals in some of the media in here with the glass, causing it to like etch it. That's real evident when you get things like prints, ink etching prints, because the ink itself has an agent that will react with glass. This particular one looks like it's not necessarily etching. Again, we'll know more inside. But the funny thing is this has got like lines coming down inside the fogging, which more than likely is a moisture, that there's been moisture allowed to condense on the glass and run down. There are also spots periodically in the fogging, which could be the evidence of some kind of growth other than it could be like a mold or a fungus in there. Again, we'll know sooner than later as we get this open. The other thing that I want to note is there are 3 lovely fingerprints right here on this glass, and it looks like somebody wasn't particularly careful about that. They are on the inside. Continuing on, we have the sides of the frame, which this is a 1 1/8. I took and measured this, so it's a 1 1/8 inch deep frame from the face, and it has screws along the side which are into the stretcher bars or strainer bars, depending on where you're from. And that will hold that pretty secure in there. It's kind of an unusual way to mount or to hold together a frame for a pastel. But okay. As I turn this over, I find that it is indeed an aluminum frame with channels. I noticed that as I look at the wire, it's wired or tied like a professional framer would tie it. So that gives me a thought that maybe there was somebody who may have known what they were doing in doing this. I look at the stretcher bars. They look like they're probably created by someone who may have been more of a finish carpenter than a framer, for two reasons. The seams, the joints are nice and cut like a framer would do, but also they're put together like a carpenter would put it together. And it's a material that traditionally framers don't use. We don't use this heavy or thick a material. It's not necessary. And this is obviously a piece of lumber, nice piece of lumber though, I have to admit, but not traditional framing materials, even for stretcher bars. The other thing is that we have some information on the back of this, which will show up in the photos that I'll send. It talks about, this looks like where it was accessioned into the collection. So it says the Peter Alexander Explosion Series Fullerton College Collection. Over here looks like it could be the stamp of a professional framer. It says modern, let me turn it around so I can read it better because it's a little fuzzy. Yeah, Modern Picture Frames Inc., Los Angeles, California. Now, that could have been just from the packing material, because this is a piece of cardboard. It could be that that's what that is. So I'm going to stop the video here, and I'm actually going to undo these, or I'm going to come back with my tools, and we're going to actually undo these sides and look inside. Okay, I'm back, and we're going to get started here. I have removed the wire by snipping it completely off, and there's just kind of a framer's thing. You never put old wire back on anything. It's a simple thing. You're responsible for it if it falls off the wall, so you always renew it, usually the whole hanging device. These screws eyes would be fine, but the wire is really old and ugly. Then I'm going to loosen and take off the frame, and I will loosen the screws in the back plates. And I'm going to loosen this one down here too, simply because it makes it just, you don't make it really loose, but you just untighten it a little bit to get it so that it'll bend a little bit, and it'll make it easier to ensure that you don't snap that glass when you're taking it out. Now normally what I do is I take the heel of this and I would, just knock this piece of frame off. But we have screws on the side here going into these stretcher bars. So I'm going to take those off. And this is going to take me some time, so do you want to pause it? Okay. They're fine enough, and it's in an awkward position, so I can't use a power tool to do this. It would be awkward. And they're long and small. we have finished taking out all the screws, so we're now ready to pull this stretcher bar out and put away the tools here. So I've got this piece of frame loose, and I lift out the stretcher bars. I put those aside, and now I have the artwork ready to come out of the glass. So what I do is I slide this frame off like this, and as you can see, because I loosened that a little bit, it drops out and I can take the frame away. Okay, now I'm going to turn this over because now the artwork is actually touching the glass, and I don't want that. Okay, so I lift this up, and I'm going to take a look at this glass and see if it's chemical etching. You'll see evidence of the image in the glass, and I'm not. I'm seeing just the fog and the different artifacts of the fog. The frame itself was not particularly dirty, so I don't feel like it was abused by leaving it in a really bad environment. But I don't, you know, this fog that could be on here could be environmental, where it's sat close to a window or across the room from a window and allowed the moisture in the print to actually show up in the frame and condense on the glass. So now I'm going to take a look at this art. I'm going to put all these tools and this frame out of the way. And I'm going to go get a pair of latex gloves because I don't want this on me or anything else. I've cleaned off the table and I've turned the artwork over so we can see what it is, and it was a lot of fun discovering what this was. The artist has actually taken a piece of any kind of thing because it says 4-in-1 Beauty Formula Allison Company. So this is not a piece of board that is art. It also has some acid intrinsic to this piece of paper itself. It was hinged to this backboard, and you can see the backboard looks like it was pretty much acid free. You can see the spot where the tape was and the brown spots around it. That's acid burn on the backing. So the backing of this was better than the paper that they use, or the board. It's about, maybe a 1/16 of an inch thick board. And what they've done, you can see here, the evidence of paint on the edges of this. They have actually painted this with a really matte paint that looks, when you look at it, it looks deep and velvety. So I'm really glad to get that glass away from it because that will just come to life, being able to be much more visible. It looks like velvet even though it's just a painted surface. You'll notice I also went and got some gloves on. There are, however, this painted surface is very tender, so where the frame touched the artwork or anywhere the artwork was allowed to touch the glass, there are rub marks on it. It's not real bad, but there are evidences of that. So when we get ready to reframe it, we will make sure that even though we have to overlap the art on this, we will want to do that. We will want to make sure that part of it is covered, and it's not that far in. It's maybe a 1/2 inch or 1/4 of an inch, so we won't lose too much of the image in here. And again, I'm just really impressed that this just came to life out away from the foggy glass. So I'm going to lay this aside here for the moment. And I'm going to explore the rest of this. This is Crescent rag mat. It says Crescent rag mat right here, 100% rag. So this board was actually better than the board the artist used to paint on. And then there was a piece of cardboard here, and you can kind of see the acid leaching from the cardboard into this brings in the look of kind of a yellowing effect here on the backing of this board. So I will save this for Carol and Jasmine to see because it has information on it, but then I hope that they discard it. So I usually keep all the materials from a piece of framed work to show the owner of the artwork, to make sure that they understood what was going on, and then my choices or recommendations for what is going to happen next. So what's going to happen next is I'm going to go over into the design area, and I'm going to pick out an appropriate mat and frame with this piece because it does have pastel on it, and things like the glitter seems to be fairly stable, but I got some out when I opened up the frame. So we will put a bloom catcher at the bottom of this, actually all the way around, and so we will have the design process in that fashion. So there we have opening up this piece of artwork, and I can't wait for you to see it because it was hidden behind foggy glass. Thank you, and I'll see you in a little bit.